Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. If you are new to my channel, I live and garden in Long Island, New York, gardening zone 7A. Along with poinsettias, another sign that winter holidays are approaching is the appearance of amaryllis in garden centers, plant nurseries, even supermarkets and big box stores. One huge mistake that many people make is treat amaryllis as an annual. The minute those beautiful, large, colorful blooms fade, they rush to discard of the entire plant. However, with proper care and maintenance, you can get your amaryllis bulb to rebloom for you every winter holiday season. And depending on the bulb variety, you can even get your amaryllis bulb to bloom for you multiple times a year. In today's video, we're going to talk about how you, my fellow home gardeners, can care for your amaryllis plant all year long and get it to rebloom for you every winter holiday season. For those of you looking for that online gardening channel, which offers tips, tricks, easy, yet proven gardening advice to take your home gardens to that next level, don't go anywhere, guys. Stick around with me today. Start with going below this video and clicking the subscribe button. For those of you who enjoy the content of my videos, if you find my videos to be useful, helpful, informative in absolutely any way, don't forget to click the thumbs up icon below as well. That's super easy for you to do, yet it's super pleasing and rewarding to me. Also, if you want to get notifications from YouTube each time I'll upload a new video, don't forget to click the bell icon below as well. Now come with me, guys. Let's get gardening. Majority of amaryllis bulbs already come pre-potted. Occasionally, you will find some amaryllis bulbs that have already started to grow the stalk and formed the flower bud. Many times you can purchase amaryllis bulbs in a form of a gift kit. Amaryllis bulb kits, regardless of the brand, typically come with one amaryllis bulb, a planter or a container, growing medium, and planting instructions. Whether you bought the amaryllis bulb kit for yourself as a present, or maybe you got it from a loved one or a colleague as a Christmas gift, when you open up the kit, you will always find an amaryllis bulb. You will always find some sort of a growing medium to put your amaryllis bulb. And of course, you get a container. The problem with these gift kits is that most of the time, the containers are too large for the sizing of the bulb that it comes with, as well as the lack of drainage. You can also purchase amaryllis in a form of loose bulbs, which is my favorite method of purchasing amaryllis bulbs. This way, I know exactly the sizing and the quality of the bulb. Also, there's a relatively new trend going around. That trend is waxed amaryllis bulbs. What are waxed amaryllis bulbs? Those are your same amaryllis bulbs. However, the company has removed the roots at the very bottom of the bulb and placed a metal stent from the bottom going up in the middle all the way towards the upper portion of the bulb. Why? To allow your bulb to freely stand. Then the bulb is coated in thick wax mixture. Because these bulbs are typically sold around winter holiday season, this wax typically comes in either red, green, or white color. Waxed amaryllis bulbs do not need to be watered nor fertilized. Amaryllis grow and bloom from large bulbs. Most often, these bulbs range in 2 to 5 inches in diameter. These large amaryllis bulbs will produce large, 4 to 10 inch trumpet shaped blooms on a long, hollow stem that will come up from the middle of the bulb, growing upward with a mature height of 1 to 2 feet. These flowers can be single or double, and they can range anywhere from red to salmon to pink to white, sometimes even by color, and often the petals of the blooms are striped. Large, sword-shaped, bright, glossy green foliage begins to appear from your bulb right around the time when the flowers begin to start to open up. Because amaryllis blooms are not only large, they're also top heavy. They grow on a tall, skinny, hollow stalk, which will form at the center of the bulb and grow up roughly 1 to 2 feet in height. You will need to offer your amaryllis plant continuous support. If you got your amaryllis bulb loose, or if it came as a part of Amaryllis Bulb Gift Kit, you will need to pot up your amaryllis bulb in order for it to grow and to bloom for you. There are very important factors to consider when potting or repotting your amaryllis bulb for maximal health and abundant, glorious blooms. So let's dive into the potting requirements for our amaryllis flower bulbs. First and foremost is choosing the right container to pot up your amaryllis bulb in. The container which you will choose has to be the right size, the correct size to fit your amaryllis bulb in, and ensure plenty of drainage on the bottom, plenty of drainage holes. One of the biggest problems with amaryllis bulb kits is the type of the container which they sell in these kits. Not only, majority of the time, the pot is way too large for the size of the bulbs which they place inside these kits. Also, these containers almost never have enough drainage. Hence, you're risking rotting out your bulb before it even sprouts and begins to grow. Amaryllis bulb kits are not cheap. They range anywhere from $10 to $30. And even when you do end up getting an amaryllis bulb kit, majority of the time you have to spend more money and invest in a different, a better container for your amaryllis bulb. The container in which you will be planting your amaryllis bulb has to be no more than 1 inch wider than the diameter of the bulb. The container also has to be twice as tall as the bulb itself for adequate root development. To stay healthy and happy, amaryllis bulbs prefer to fit snug and tight in the containers in which they're grown. Hence, no more than 1 inch of spacing between the bulb and the edge of the container. And if your amaryllis bulbs are really healthy and happy, they're going to start producing pups or offspring for you, which is the case right over here with this amaryllis bulb. If you are interested in propagating amaryllis, all you would have to do is remove the mother bulb from existing pot and potting mix, and to carefully separate the babies or the pups from the original mother bulb, and pot each one up in its own individual containers. And now, instead of having 1 amaryllis plant, you're going to have 3. If I were to pot the amaryllis bulb that came in this amaryllis bulb kit into the container that came with the gift kit, I wanted to show you why this container would be wrong for this bulb. You could see that when I position the bulb in the center, there is more than 1 inch of distance from the bulb to the edge of the container. So this container that came with the bulb is much too tall and much too large for the sizing of the bulb that they sold in this Amaryllis Bulb Kit. Next, very important factor to consider is potting medium. Majority of Amaryllis Bulb Kits come with these cocoa peat discs, which you must rehydrate before planting your Amaryllis bulb. When planting my loose Amaryllis bulbs or repotting my Amaryllis bulbs, I always prefer to use well-draining potting mix. I always get the potting mix that's formulated for succulents, cacti, as well as citrus plant. If the potting mix which you are using is not well draining, you will risk rotting out your bulb. When potting or repotting your Amaryllis bulbs, never peel off this outer protective layer. Always leave it intact. And when backfilling, make sure that 1/3 of the top of your Amaryllis bulb will still remain visible from the potting mixture. Just like majority of flowering flower bulbs, Amaryllis ideally prefers bright, sunny, southern exposure location. Once your Amaryllis bulb starts to bloom, and if you want to retain those beautiful blooms for a longer period of time, I do highly recommend that you relocate your blooming Amaryllis to a bit shadier and cooler growing location. Now let's talk about caring for our Amaryllis plants after they're done blooming. As the flowers begin to fade, what you want to do is cut them off immediately, leaving the leaves or the foliage of your Amaryllis plant intact. Why do you want to cut off the spent blooms as soon as possible? Because you want to prevent seed formation. Allowing seeds to form will deplete all of the energy sources from the mother bulb and can lead to reduced blooming subsequent years. Leave the foliage intact. Never cut it down all the way to the bulb once the blooms are spent. Just like with other blooming flower bulbs like tulips, hyacinths, daffodils, leaves are needed to create that energy, to send that energy back to the mother bulb for great blooms next year. Once you see that the foliage starts to wilt, turn yellow or brown in color, that is when you're allowed to cut it down all the way to the mother bulb. If your Amaryllis plant is done blooming, yet you're noticing a thick bud-like growth exactly where the flower bud used to be, that is a seed pod. That means that that particular Amaryllis plant has been successfully pollinated. Hence now it's forming seeds. That seed pod will expand and change in color. Once the seeds are ready to be harvested, they will be paper thin, flaky in texture, and dark brown in color. So if you're not interested in growing more Amaryllis plant from seeds or propagating your Amaryllis plant, feel free to cut out that thick bulb-like seed structure from your Amaryllis plant as soon as you notice it. Once your Amaryllis bulbs are done blooming, you want to place them in a room with lots of bright southern exposure. I keep my Amaryllis bulbs right over here in my green room along with my citrus plants and other tropical exotic house plants. Don't forget to water your amaryllis bulb regularly when the top 2 inches of the soil are dry. Fertilize your amaryllis plant once a month with organic house plant fertilizer, and enjoy your amaryllis plant as a beautiful, lush, green house plant all year long. Well, that is until it's time to place it into its dormancy phase in order to get it to rebloom again. So now let's talk about how we can force our amaryllis bulb into a dormancy period or relaxation sleeping phase. Have it wake up and bloom for us all over again. If you want your amaryllis bulb to grow and rebloom for you just in time for the Christmas holiday, plan ahead and plan accordingly. Before you're even ready to place your amaryllis bulb into the dormancy period, make sure that you do not water your amaryllis plant at least 1 week, if not more, preferably, before you place it into dormancy period. The soil in which your amaryllis bulb is growing must be dry before you place your amaryllis bulb into its dormancy period. For amaryllis plant to rebloom, it needs to be exposed to cooler air temperature. It needs to be placed in a cool, dark location. The location has to be unheated with temperatures of 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit and with minimal to no sunlight exposure for at least 8 to 12 weeks. Leave your amaryllis plant or your amaryllis bulb be. Leave it alone for at least 8 to 12 weeks. During these 8 to 12 weeks of dormancy period, do not water and do not fertilize your amaryllis bulb. Just leave it alone. Mark the date when you place your amaryllis bulb into that cooler, darker location, somewhere in your phone, on your calendar. Come back to your plant 8 to 12 weeks after. The longer, the better. Bring your plant back inside into a warmer, brighter location and water your amaryllis bulb thoroughly. I advise that you will do this in a sink so you don't cause a wet water mess. Allow all the water to run off thoroughly before placing your amaryllis bulb into its permanent growing spot. Within a few days, you will start to see your bulb wake up and sprout green leaf growth, followed by the stalk and the flower buds. Because many of us associate amaryllis with beautiful winter holidays. The time to plant, consider, and to place our amaryllis bulbs into their 8 to 12 week dormancy period is now, guys, if you want them to wake up and bloom for us just in time for Christmas. So where is that perfect spot to place our amaryllis plants or amaryllis bulbs for the duration of their dormancy period? Unheated garage, outdoor gardening shed, even an unheated basement would all do the trick. I prefer to leave my amaryllis bulbs, my potted amaryllis bulbs, in my unheated garage. If you do have some windows in your gardening shed or even in your garage and you are worried of exposing your bulbs to some sunlight, you could take that one extra step and cover the containers or the bare bulbs with a tarp, a tablecloth, a towel, anything that would prevent or limit the amount of sunlight that your plants will be exposed to during those 8 to 12 weeks. Now let's move on and talk about some common issues associated with Amaryllis plant. The first and probably the most common issue with Amaryllis is overwatering. Although moist soil is vital for beautiful long bloom periods, keeping your soil overly saturated with moisture will lead to the rotting of your Amaryllis bulb. So what are some signs that will let you know that you have potentially overwatered your Amaryllis bulb or your Amaryllis plant? One of the most common indications that you have unfortunately overwatered your Amaryllis bulb is yellowing of the leaves. If you see the majority of the leaves are green, yet some of the leaves are starting to turn yellow in color like this one, that means that you have potentially overwatered the bulb. Also, if you see that the growth of your Amaryllis plant is rather stunted, that's also an indication of overwatering the bulb. Also, if you feel the top of your bulb and it feels soft, soggy, or mushy, that's also an indication of overwatering. You still have a chance to save your Amaryllis plant or Amaryllis bulb. Simply cut off the impacted yellow foliage and drastically cut down on the watering until you feel that at least 3 to 4 inches of the soil are dry. Too little light exposure can also be a problem with growing Amaryllis. So how can you tell that your plant is not getting enough light exposure? First big indication is wilting or drooping leaves on your Amaryllis plant. However, the bulb is not hollow, it's not mushy, and it's not soft to the touch. So the bulb remains firm, yet you're seeing that some of the leaves of your Amaryllis plant are starting to bend down or wilt down. If you're concerned about the aesthetic look of your plant, you can always trim off or cut off that drooping foliage from your Amaryllis plant. However, if you're really questioning whether you're giving enough light exposure to your Amaryllis plant and just are not sure, how can you tell? If you, my fellow home gardener, are able to read a newspaper clearly while facing away from that light exposure, if you could see all the words in the newspaper article clearly, that means that your Amaryllis plant is getting just enough sunlight that it needs. If you must improve or increase the amount of sunlight that your Amaryllis plant will be getting going forward, please make sure that you do so gradually. If you will change the growing location too drastically, too quickly, you will stunt and you will shock your Amaryllis plant. So transition it to a new location slowly. Start with maybe 10-15 minutes a day, extend it to 30 minutes, then to an hour, then to maybe 2 or 3 hours, and so forth. What is the next common problem? The problem is too much bright, direct sunlight exposure. When we expose the foliage of our Amaryllis plants to too much bright and direct sunlight, the leaves of the foliage of our Amaryllis plant will succumb to sun scorch. What does sun scorch look like on the leaves of our Amaryllis plant? It looks like brown or black marks, lines, or pigmentations on the leaves of our Amaryllis plant. So when we see those brown or black lines and pigmentations, that simply means that we have exposed our Amaryllis plant to too much bright, direct sunlight. We should really relocate our plant to more indirect sunlight exposure. But remember to do it gradually. You do not want to shock your Amaryllis bulb. Before placing your Amaryllis bulbs into their dormancy period of 8 to 12 weeks minimum, you have an option to cut off all of the foliage all the way down to the bulb before placing your bulbs into their dormancy period, or you can leave the leaves or the foliage intact the way they are growing. During their dormancy period, the leaves will start to turn yellow and die off, either way. So if you notice that during the dormancy period, the leaves have turned yellow and died off, you're welcome to cut them off during that period as well. Remember guys, when you pull your amaryllis bulbs out of their 8 to 12 week dormancy period, they will still be asleep. They will have no leaf or foliage growth on them. The soil will be very dry. So in order to wake your bulb up and to have it grow for you and bloom again, first and foremost, you want to touch the upper portion of the bulb. You want to make sure that it's still stiff and solid. You do not want to feel any hollowness, emptiness, mushiness. I always like to smell my bulbs as well. If you smell any foul odor, that's an indication of fungus or rot. If anything smells off to you, if you feel your bulb is mushy or hollow for whatever reason, make sure that you pull it out of the potting mix and inspect the bulb thoroughly. If your bulb smells clean, if it's still stiff and firm to the touch, water it thoroughly and bring it into a brighter, warmer growing location. This is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today in my home garden in Long Island, New York, Gardening Zone 7A. In today's video, we spoke about amaryllis care and reblooming tips. For those of you who enjoyed the content of today's video, if you found today's video to be useful, helpful, informative, in absolutely any way, don't be shy, guys. It's super easy for you to do, yet it's super pleasing and rewarding to me. Please show me that support by clicking thumbs up below. Leave your comments in the comments section as well. Let me know, do you grow amaryllis in your home all year round? What steps do you take to have your amaryllis bulb rebloom for you just in time for our precious winter holidays? If you haven't yet subscribed to my gardening channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor, please don't wait any longer, guys. It's super easy to do. Just go below this video and click the subscribe button. If you want to get notifications each time I'll upload a new gardening video, please don't forget to click the bell icon below as well. Stay healthy, happy, be well, each and every single one of you. And happy gardening, guys. And I'll see you again in my upcoming gardening videos. Bye, guys.